On the 24th day of this is Zechariah 1 verse 7, on the 24th day of the 11th month, the month of Shebat, so this is now January, 519 BC. Now Haggai's ministry is over. His ministry as a prophet is over. His last message came on the 24th day of the 9th month. That would have been about 2 months earlier. This is now the 24th day of the 11th month, pretty much exactly 2 months after Haggai's last message. In the second year of Darius, this is our January 519 BC, the word of the Lord came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo. During the night I had a vision. So now he's identifying himself as this person. Again, the ancient texts often go back and forth between the third person and the first person. That's very common. They're not like our language, our writings today, which tend to stay in one style or another. The writer of a text will frequently refer to himself in the third person as he writes the text, occasionally identifying himself as the speaker. But it's very common for them to go back and forth between calling himself by his name or calling himself by I. Very, very, very common. Now, when we get to Nehemiah, we're going to read almost all of that book written as I. Nehemiah is writing that himself. And that's actually kind of unusual. And by ancient standards, first person writing like that is pretty unusual. So don't get disturbed by the bouncing back and forth between the third person and the first person. That's just how the ancient texts, not this, but just in general, how ancient texts were. During the night I had a vision, and there before me was a man riding a red horse. I don't know if Zechariah had gone to bed and had this vision while he was in his bed, or if he was standing around somewhere and had this vision. Later on he'll actually get awakened. It'll sound like he's being wakened up, but I don't know. I really honestly don't. I don't know what it's like to have a vision from God or a dream from God. I don't know how you tell the difference. I really don't. You can have both. I mean, we do see God communicating to people both ways throughout the Old Testament. I've never had that happen, and not too many people have, I don't think. So I don't know exactly what that experience is like or how to tell the difference. This is happening at night. Apparently it's all happening in the same night. The 24th day of the 11th month. During the night I had a vision, and there before me was a man riding a red horse. He was standing among the myrtle trees in a ravine. Behind him were red, brown, and white horses. So 4 horses total. And he's on one. I don't know if the colors mean much. Okay, I can't find any particular significance in the colors of these horses. They may just be there to add detail and imagery to the imagery. I just don't know. Later on, in Revelation, we're going to get a vision of 4 horsemen, and there the colors do mean something. The 4 horsemen of Revelation have colors to the horses, and the colors do identify like certain attributes of the horses. We have the white horse, which stands for holiness, a red horse, which stands for war, bloodshed, the black horse, which stands, I think, for famine, and the pale horse, which stands for death. But here, I don't think that red, brown, and white mean anything. I can't tell if they do. I asked, "What are these, my Lord?" The angel who was talking with me answered, "I will show you what they are." So he has an angel host who's guiding him around for these visions. Then the man standing among the myrtle trees, this is the guy that previously had been on the horse, now he's standing among the myrtle trees, explained, "They are the ones the Lord has sent." Again, there's that capital L-O-R-D, Lord, so that's Jehovah, that's the name of God himself, "has sent to go throughout the earth." And they reported to the angel of the Lord, who was standing among the myrtle trees. So this is the angel of the Lord. We saw him initially as a man riding a red horse, then he was standing among the trees. Now we identify him as the angel of the Lord. Now that's separate from the angel who is guiding Zechariah around. Zechariah has an angelic guide throughout these visions, and that is not the angel of the Lord. That's just another angel. And there's a couple of other angels that come and go throughout these visions too, but there's also the angel of the Lord. And that is the individual, the being that is amongst these trees and these horses here. Now we have seen elsewhere in Scripture the angel of the Lord speak with the authority of God. and attribute God's actions and activities to himself. So in some way or another, this angel of the Lord is identified with God. Here, however, he's talking to the Lord. So there is also a distinction made. He is somehow identified with God, and yet there is a distinction because he also is speaking to God. At different times here in Zechariah. So the man standing among the myrtle trees, the angel of the Lord, said, "They are the ones the Lord has sent to go throughout the earth." And they reported, apparently these 4 horses, or 4 horsemen, or whatever, to the angel of the Lord, who was standing among the myrtle trees, "We have gone throughout the earth, and found the whole world at rest and in peace." Then the angel of the Lord said, "Lord Almighty, how long will you withhold mercy from Jerusalem and from the towns of Judah, which you have been angry with these 70 years? So the Lord spoke kind and comforting words to the angel who talked with me. That, I think, is the host angel, the one who's guiding Zechariah through this vision. Then the angel who was speaking to me said, so the angel of the Lord calls out, apparently, to the Lord of hosts, Lord Almighty, how long will he be angry with Jerusalem? And then he gets, the angel who was there with Zechariah apparently gets an answer, kind accompanying words, and then he relates that answer to Zechariah. The angel who was speaking to me said, "Proclaim this word. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I am very jealous for Zion and Jerusalem, but I am very angry with the nations that feel secure. I was only a little angry, but they added to the calamity." What this is saying is that God was angry with Jerusalem and Judah. That's why he punished them. He used the nations to do that. But the nations went above and beyond what God had intended. So now he is angry at the nations. He is going to comfort. He's zealous and jealous for Zion and Judah. So he's going to comfort them and punish the nations for overly abusing her. He did discipline her. He did discipline Judah with the nations as his rod of punishment. But they went above and beyond what he had intended. So now he is angry with them and is going to punish them. Therefore, this is what the Lord says. I will return to Jerusalem with mercy, and there my house will be rebuilt. So at this point in time, about 4 or 5 months into the rebuilding project, it's still not rebuilt, but they're getting there. And the measuring line will be stretched out over Jerusalem. That means the entire city will be rebuilt. You measure your area before you begin building anything. You take measurements. Before you can begin building anything, you have to take measurements. So the measuring line will be stretched out. That's a promise that eventually Jerusalem itself will be rebuilt. And we'll read about that in Nehemiah. That'll basically be the story of the rest of the Old Testament. Building this temple and then building the rest of the city. Proclaim further, this is what the Lord Almighty says. My towns will again overflow with prosperity, and the Lord will again comfort Zion and choose Jerusalem. The 70 years here probably relates to the period of time in which the temple was in rubble. We read in Daniel as he prays about the 70 years. Jeremiah talked about the 70 years of captivity. And there's 2 different ways, there's 2 different blocks of time that could refer to. The 70 years of captivity could refer to from the time between Nebuchadnezzar's first attack on Jerusalem and the first wave of exiles being taken, including Daniel. That's when Daniel was taken in 606 BC, and to the end of the exile in 536, and they started going back. Cyrus comes in 539. The Persians overtake Babylon. In 538, the decree is issued. They can go back, and in 536, they do go back and they build the altar and they got the foundation. So there's one 70-year period from about 606 to 536. And there's another 70-year period from about 586, and the temple actually is destroyed, to 516 when it's finished being rebuilt. So there's another 70-year period. I'm not going to fuss over the exact lengths of time. I think it's a round number in either case, but you do have like 2 separate 70-year units of time. The exile itself, the captivity, which began in 606 and ended in 536, and then the fall of the temple happened in 586. The second one was rebuilt and finished in 516, so there's 70 years. 70 years without a temple. 70 years in captivity, and then 70 years without a temple. And those are two different units of time. Overall, it took about 90 years. From the beginning of the captivity in 606 to the establishment of the second temple in 516, that whole period was 90 years. Anyway, then I looked up, and there before me were 4 horns. I asked the angel who was speaking to me, "What are these?" He answered me, "These are the horns that scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem." Then the Lord showed me 4 craftsmen. I asked, "What are these coming to do?" He answered, "These are the horns that scattered Judah so that no one could raise his head. But the craftsmen have come to terrify them, and throw them down, and throw down these horns of the nations, who lifted up their horns against the land to scatter its people," the land of Judah to scatter its people. So the land is at rest. The first vision was an indication that the land is at rest. God is in Jerusalem. He's in Judah again. That also may refer to the land physically being at rest. They had civil war. For the last 16 years, the Persian Empire, well, not the last 16 years, but for the last several years, the Persian Empire had trouble because Cambyses was fighting against Egypt, and then he died, and there was a civil war over who was going to be the throne. Now that's been settled. Darius has taken over. There's peace in the land. So to a certain degree, it could just be referring to the fact that the civil war is over and there is stability in the empire again. But I think in a broader sense, it's referring to the peace that's come on Judah now that God is back. He has returned. He is jealous for Zion and Jerusalem again. He's going to turn his anger to the nations. And he's going to do that by breaking their horns. A horn in the Bible is a reference to strength. And they were around a lot of horned animals back then. They had a lot of goats, a lot of rams, a lot of bulls. Okay, they were around a lot of horned animals. And horns, of course, a lot of domestic animals have horns. The bull does, the ram does, the goat does. And so these are like these are their sacrificial animals. And so the horn was often a sign of strength. And in this case, the nations are represented by these horns, and these craftsmen are coming, probably the same thing as the 4 riders of the horses in the previous chapter. These are probably the cherubim. We don't really know for sure, but we saw 4 cherubim in Ezekiel. We see 4 cherubim in Revelation, the attendants around the throne of God. We saw 4 of them in Isaiah too, although they weren't called cherubim there. I think it's all the same 4 entities. Like the personal vanguard, bodyguard unit of God. I think it's all the same thing. And now they're serving as craftsmen. And of course, craftsmen take horns and make things out of them. Okay, a blacksmith would take a horn and reshape it to be something else. So they're going to take these horns representing the nations and attack Israel and literally rework them into something else. So that terrifies the horns because they're going to be hacked to pieces and made into something else. I don't know if these 4 horns stand for 4 separate nations. If so, I guess it would be Assyria, Babylon, Persia, maybe. I'm not sure what the 4th one would be. Okay. And of course, each time one of these nations fell, it did so at the hand of another nation. So when Syria conquered Israel, and then later on Babylon conquered Syria. Babylon then conquered Judah, and then later on Persia conquered Babylon. Persia sets Judah free, so I don't know if they're considered to be one of these horns, because I don't know. I don't know if these horns necessarily represent specific nations, and if they do, I can't tell you which nations those would be. But these are the entities that terrorize Judah and Jerusalem and Israel, and now they're being terrorized by these craftsmen who are coming to break them into pieces and reshape them into something else. Then I looked up, and there before me was a man with a measuring line in his hand. And we already talked about a measuring line earlier. The Lord Almighty declared that he's going to stretch out a measuring line over Jerusalem. So here comes a guy to do just that. So there before me was a man with a measuring line in his hand. I asked, "Where are you going?" He answered, "To measure Jerusalem, to find out how wide and how long it is." Then the angel who was speaking to me left, and another angel came to meet him and said to him, "One, tell that young man," which is Zechariah presumably, "Jerusalem will be a city without walls because of the great number of men and livestock in it. And I myself will be a wall of fire around it, declares the Lord, and I will be its glory within." Now, this is not a reference literally to the city of Jerusalem on that day, because it will have a wall around it. In fact, the entire plot of the book of Nehemiah is about building that wall. So this is not a reference to Jerusalem actually existing without a wall at this point in time, because it will have a wall. And remember, a wall around a city was a protection from thieves and wild animals and enemy nations. And so they all had walls, and the people of the day wouldn't have felt comfortable living in a city that didn't have walls around it. It just would not have been something that they would have wanted to do. As we read about in Nehemiah, people did not want to live in Jerusalem as long as it didn't have a wall. So they're going to build a wall. So this is not a reference literally to the city of Jerusalem, because that city will have a wall built around it. But it's saying that Jerusalem will be at peace. God himself will be the wall, a wall of fire around Jerusalem, so keeping it secure and at peace. Come, come, flee from the land of the north, declares the Lord, for I have scattered you to the four winds of heaven, declares the Lord. So come back from Babylon. Now, Babylon is not north of Israel. It's actually east of Israel. If anything, it's a little south of Israel. Babylon is east of Israel. It is not north of Israel, but it's constantly referred to as being land of the north because the Babylonians came to Israel through the north. They had the direct between Israel and Babylon is a huge desert. So whenever anyone went from one place to the other, they went up the Euphrates River and down into the south into the land of Israel. Abraham went that way back in the day because he actually came from an area near Babylon, and he went up the Euphrates River and down south into the land. Nebuchadnezzar generally went that way when he came back and forth. He would follow the Euphrates River. When the exiles returned from Babylon, they returned by going that way up the Euphrates River and down. So Babylon is actually east, geographically, it's actually east of Israel. But we saw this in Jeremiah, and we're seeing it here in Zechariah. They're constantly talking about the attack from the north, because that's where the attackers came from. So fleeing from the land of the north means flee from Babylon. Come back from Babylon. Come back home. Come, O Zion. Escape, you who live in the daughter of Babylon. For this is what the Lord Almighty says. After he has honored me, and has sent me against the nations that have plundered you, whoever touches you touches the apple of his eye. I will surely, and Babylon did, so he went after Babylon eventually. I will surely raise my hand against them, so that their slaves will plunder them. Then you will know the Lord Almighty is him. He's actually already done that. Babylon was a nation that went after Israel, and he sent Persia eventually against Babylon. So that's actually already happened at this point. Shout and be glad, O daughter of Zion, for I am coming, and I will live among you, declares the Lord. Many nations will be joined with the Lord in that day, and will become my people. I will live among you, and you will know the Lord Almighty has sent me to you. The Lord will inherit Judah as his portion in the Holy Land, and will again choose Jerusalem. Be still before the Lord, all mankind, because he has roused himself from his holy dwelling. That's the first set of visions. It's vision 1, 2, and 3. Next, we're going to read visions 4 and 5, the middle visions.